Thanks so much for being here. My name is Anna, and today I have an absolutely stunning technique to share with you that is really very simple. You can use products that you likely already have in your collection and make one-of-a-kind cards and make several in really not very much time at all. Let's take a look at it. Here you can see the effect used by today's technique, which we're going to do with a baby wipe and some ink refills. This technique has been around for a while, but I keep finding stampers who have never seen it before, and I just love it, and I want to share it with you today. So here is the stamp set I'm going to be using. This is coming out. This is brand new from Stampin' Up! Starting in January of 2022. Really neat stamp set. So I'll show you that, and let's get set up for the technique. So what I have is one of our stamp cases. I really like to use these for a lot of things. I store my chamois that I use to clean my stamps. I store one of these in here, and it's really handy for this technique as well. You can also use your silicone craft sheet if you have one of those. Love those too. So what I've done, I take a baby wipe, and anytime I'm using baby wipes with my stamps, I like to get the sensitive ones that are alcohol free. And I have laid this in my case. I doubled it up. It's just folded in half, so it is doubled. And what I'm going to do is start adding ink colors to this. This is going to be our ink pad. We are not using a regular stamp pad to ink our stamps today. We're using this as our ink pad. So I'm going to use some of my ink refills. Now let me tell you the colors we're going to be using. I have Pale Papaya, Magenta Madness, Pumpkin Pie, Calypso Coral, Old Olive, Granny Apple Green, and Just Jade. And what you want to do is just squeeze little bits of ink out onto the baby wipe in different patterns. You can mix these up however you like. There is no right or wrong. And I think what I'm going to do is make more of a pinky side and make more of an orangey side, because see my two flower stamps that I have out? I think I want to stamp one of those with more pinks and one of them with more oranges. So have a little bit more pink over here, a little bit more just in the orange over here. You don't have to do that. You can mix these up, like I said, however you want. Now with my greens, I am just going to mix them up all over the place. Now the area that you ink with this needs to be at least as large as your largest stamp. So you don't need to make these huge areas unless you have a huge stamp, of course. So I'm looking at that large leaf thinking I need that at least as big as that. Okay. So I'll bring in my piece of cardstock. For both of these cards, both the Christmas one and the one we are making right now, I just used a piece of 4 by 5 1/4 cardstock. And I put it onto my card base that was 5.5 by 8.5, folded in half. So for this one, I am going to put my design more down in the corner. For my Christmas card, I had centered it. Loved how this turned out, but we're just going to try a little bit different look here this time. So I am going to start with this floral stamp. I'm going to ink it up here on those pinks. Now it's up to you if you just want to ink one time or if you want to ink a couple of times. If you ink a couple of times, you're going to end up with more of a blended color pattern. If you just ink once, it's going to be a little bit more less blended. We'll go with that. So I'll turn this around that way. Now I want to add in one of these. I'll ink this down here more on the orange area. We'll put that right there. I think I'll do one more of those. Right here. And then one more of this one, again with those pinks. The reason I decided to do this with the different colors is I just thought it would help these flowers stand out from each other and not just blend together. Now on this card, the poinsettias, I did all of those in the same area, and then I did all the leaves in the same area. So I didn't separate colors on the Christmas card like I did on this one right here with the flowers. Okay, now let's add in some leaves. Make this look like a floral spray. We can add some leaves there. We'll add some down here. I do want to fill in this area here. And I do have that one leaf that looks like it's coming right off of the flowers. We'll use some of those. So let's use some of these now, right up here close to the flower. Just to fill in that space. And we can add some up here if we want to. What I want to do is just add a few little tiny ones up there. So what I'm going to do is clean off this stamp, make sure it's all the way clean, and I'm going to dry it real quick on my paper. And I'm just going to ink the top couple of leaves, like maybe the top two. Stamp that right there while they'll be sticking out of the flowers. I like that. And I think I'm going to add one more just with one leaf, if I can do one leaf. So to see how the rest of my stamp is over here, not where the ink is. I only have ink right there on that one little leaf. And we get one little green leaf right there. Okay, now I think I do want to add in a few of these. I am not going to use this stamp. Just thought I would show it to you. And I love, see how on this one, I love to mix in some of these tan colors. So I'm going to use Sahara Sand to ink up this. And I am not going to ink these bottom parts of the stems down here because I'm going to put some of these over here and I don't want that stem to show up on top of my flower. We'll put that there. Then we'll add in some of these down here where they're going to show up. And I think that is beautiful. I just love the multicolor, the color variation that you get from this baby wipe ink technique. Now real quick, let me share the colors I had used on my Christmas card if you want to try and create this one. The colors I used on it were Melon Mambo, Poppy Parade, Cherry Cobbler, Mary Merlot, Soft Succulent, Evening Evergreen, Pear Pizzazz, and Garden Green. Now the next step here is to emboss this. I'm going to emboss this piece, then I want to use blending brushes to add that aged look to the top. I used our Tasteful Textile embossing folder, one of my favorites. Especially one of my favorites for creating this aged technique, which I do fairly often in my crafting. I love the way it looks. So I'll put this through my cut and emboss machine. If you'd like information on this machine, I'm going to link in a video here where I shared a lot of information about this one. We have this one, and we also have a mini one that is awesome for traveling or just for smaller projects that it's a little bit easier to crank if you have a hard time cranking. So we'll link to some information there if you want to take a look. So now we have this beautiful textile type of an effect on our sample. So bring in my grid paper again, and I have my blending brush that I use for browns. And if this is your first time blending, I encourage you to start with a light color because I've done this a fair amount. I'm going to use soft suede, but if you're doing, like I said, if you're new at this, you may want to try like Sahara Sand or Crumb Cake. So you want to ink this on your ink pad in a swirling motion. On your scrap paper, blot off some of the excess, again in a circular pattern. And then you're going to start on the edge with a very soft touch and swirling motion and work your way inwards. Now it's up to you if you just want the aged look on the edges or if you want it all over. For this one, I think I may stick with the edges. On my other card, I did go into the inside, I believe. But I just think this is the neatest technique. Makes it look like old fabric that's discolored a little bit. Reminds me, some of these cards I've made like this often remind me of my grandmothers, who I miss dearly. So there we have added that beautiful color. Now, if you don't like the aged look, but you like the idea of some color around the outside, you can use a different color. You could use one of the greens, you could use pink or the pale papaya and get a very different effect that way. You can pop these up for a nice effect if you want to use dimensionals, foam dimensionals behind this. A lot of times with my fairly simple cards, that's what I like to do on the front, is to pop them up. And on this one, I'm just going to use regular adhesive though. So we'll attach this to the front. I have a ribbon prepared. We will add, and also my greeting. So this stamp was from the stamp set I showed you, the Boughs and Blossoms. And I want to add some ribbon behind where it's going to be that goes up and down a little bit like on my Christmas card. I really like this effect. This is something that you see me do often. Now, if you haven't seen me often, this is your first time here, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, I would love for you to click below on that subscribe button. And if you click the little bell, you'll get notifications when I share new content. I would love for you to be back next time when I'm sharing more fun project ideas. I love to share techniques. I'm hoping to share more with the organization here soon as I work on my new craft space in the basement. I can't wait to share that with you and share some of my tips for organization. Here's my dimensionals. I love to use my take your pick tool to pull those paper pieces off. It really helps if you have a hard time with your hands. That is a wonderful tip. And I will place this on right here. So I'll probably add a few embellishments. There you can see how to use that beautiful baby wipe technique for some really neat cards. Thanks for joining today. You can find links to all the products I used in the description below underneath the video. Hope you have a blessed day, and I hope you'll be back again next time when I'll be here helping you to hand make with love.